Yo, what is going on, guys? Got a bit of a different video here today titled 40 Brutal Truths That Men Wished That Women Knew. Now, before we even jump into it, I don't think that women are going to give a damn even if they see a video like this. Most women aren't going to change the way they behave. They aren't going to sympathize with men anymore, and these things will kind of just get ignored anyway. But it is an interesting video of 40 things that men wished that women knew. So let's jump into it. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and your comments. Let's jump into it.
No, you're not. You're hearing me, but you're not actually talk about this. Feel like you even care about the weight of this.
70% of relationship-centered media, including books, movies, and TV shows, cater to a woman's perceptions and desires. But at what point does it become important to ask, what do men want? And while the curiosity and empowerment of women continues to rise with praise, it also seems to continue to surface itself at the consequence of diminishing men. And we all eat it up, subconsciously programming ourselves to see men as inadequate. Why would we need to understand them? Now, if it's not obvious, I'm not a man. So you might be wondering, what is a woman doing creating a video on this topic? Well,
I mean, probably just trying to farm an audience of dudes, trying to get subscribers. Now, I'm not saying that this particular woman is doing this, but usually when women make videos like this, it's not because they actually care. It's not because they empathize with men's issues or because, you know, all the things that men are going through. Usually when content creators make videos like these, they're just trying to collect some simps who think that they actually care. Most people do not care about men's issues, and this goes for other men as well. You know, a lot of guys, it's like you go through something hard in life, something bad happens, it's kind of like, suck it up, you have work tomorrow. It is what it is. This is something that men are far more inclined to understand, but I don't think that women in general really give a damn about these things.
not a man. So you might be wondering, what is a media platforms? And I directly asked them, what is it that women do not understand about men? So on that note, here are 40 things that men wish women would understand about them. Which brings me to my first point. Learn when to shut up. Now, this might seem really harsh, but men value solutions over venting. Excessive talking without purpose feels overwhelming and somewhat counterproductive. Now, men are wired to be solution-focused. So when women come in without clear communication about what it is that they actually want, the logical side of a male's brain will take over and offer a solution to the problems that they're presenting. And as a consequence to this, women tend to get defensive, frustrated, feeling misunderstood, and ultimately tell men that they simply aren't listening, when in fact, they are. But they are wired to solve problems versus ruminating on them.
Yeah, what an absolute travesty, right? And of course, you know, I totally agree with this. This is something that a lot of modern women do these days, is they will tell you problems, they will tell you things, but of course, if you fix it, then somehow you're doing something wrong, okay? There used to be a time when men were appreciated for fixing problems, but these days, apparently, we just need to be women's pocket therapists, right? And a lot of guys are not interested in doing this, right? We don't want to sit around, you know, ruminating on these particular problems. We would rather go out there and solve them and see what kind of solutions are available.
Problems versus ruminating on them. Alternatively, when a man is making a point, women can become combative and amplify negative emotion and further conflict, which only continues to build up tension between the two. There are situations where it is more important to seek understanding than being right, and this means knowing when to respect their opinion. And no, this doesn't mean completely diminish your own. And this brings me to my next point. Never belittle or disrespect a man. Men value respect much more than adoration or love. And women tend to be much more passive-aggressive, and this is because they are also, on average, much more agreeable. So instead of addressing issues head-on, they tend to make side comments towards their partner. And when they do this, especially in front of other people, it's somehow supposed to just be okay.
Yeah, I'll be honest, guys. The moment a woman does this, you just throw her out. Okay, like, dude, so many men are in relationships where the woman doesn't respect him, she won't listen, she has an issue with absolutely everything, and it's like, dudes just don't want to be in an environment where there's a lot of friction. Usually when they go out and work, they have, you know, there's a lot of friction there, they've got to have battles all day kind of thing, they go to work, they become stressed out, and then the last thing they want when they get home is to be in some sort of, you know, combat situation where your girlfriend or wife is disagreeing with you the whole time. Never mind the fact that some of these women also are going out here and disrespecting their man in front of other people. This is straight up embarrassing, guys, to the point where you just have to throw out the entire woman. Right? It is next level embarrassment. You go out there in public and your girlfriend or wife trash talks you in public. I actually saw a clip of this. I believe it was from The View, where one of the quote unquote women on The View was like trash talking her husband, and I just thought that was absolutely insane. The fact that she's still married is beyond me. I don't know, maybe she got a divorce since that clip. It wouldn't surprise me. But anyway, let's continue.
People. It's somehow supposed to just be okay. And when they take it too far and they're called out on their bad behavior, they tend to respond with, oh, come on, it's just a joke. Meanwhile, if their partner were to make a similar comment that they found offensive in front of a group of people, it's just a joke, probably wouldn't fly. And research indicates that respect is the most important factor when it comes to men in relationships. So disrespectful jokes or belittling remarks can impact the quality of the relationship and how long it actually lasts. And alongside this, well, they had some other important points to note, such as, you are not a princess, just a person. Men do appreciate a level of humility, where a sense of entitlement comes off as selfish and demanding. And a comment from my audience made this point directly. I think the biggest misunderstanding is that when a guy does things that you ask him to, it's because he loves you, not because you control him. I guarantee the second that you make him stop loving you, he's gonna tell you to take a walk when you tell him to do things that you brag to all of your friends about. You aren't a mastermind chess level manipulator. He just cares about you. And this is an important point that I don't want to overlook. Women tend to focus on what they need from a man: provision, protection, support. And if she doesn't get her needs met, her demands fulfilled, or constant attention, she can become entitled and say things like, a real man would treat his girl like a princess.
Yeah, I think we saw this in a recent article as well, by the way, that I covered here on this channel. Whenever I read like relationship articles for women or dating advice for women, it's all about the things that they can get. Oh, I need a man who does this. You need to get clear on the things that you're interested. And it's all me, 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 me. It is never considering what the man might value in the relationship or what a man might be looking for in a woman, right? It's always like what the women need. And if the women don't get what they need, then you're not a real man and you get thrown to the side. And this is how it's always been, guys, to be honest with you. Men are quote unquote loved for what they provide. If you're a dude and you're unattractive and you have no money, women aren't, you know, your soulmate, the odds of finding your soulmate, as it were, are severely diminished, right? People and society like to sell this idea that everyone has a soulmate and, you know, things are going to be totally fine. You're just fine the way you are, guys. Don't work on yourself. Don't make money. Don't, you know, everything's going to be fine. But the fact of the matter is, women give very much of a damn about how you look, about how successful you are, and things like this. People lie to men all the time. Oh, it doesn't matter how tall you are. It doesn't matter if you're attractive or not, or not. It doesn't matter how much money is in your bank account. Like, women certainly do care about these things, guys. It is, you know, people like to lie about this all of the damn time.
Real man would treat his girl like a princess. And yes, I've seen this. But
just by the way as well, men don't like to be used for these things. I think that's where a lot of you know, issues are coming from, is that women these days are just treating men like wallets. They don't appreciate them, they don't respect them. They use men for their wallets. You know, that is the guys that have to commit to them, as it were, right? The dudes who women chase for long-term relationships, oh, he has to pay for everything, he has to do all this, and if he doesn't, then I'm going to go and find another man. Men don't like to be used for their resources. They just, like, they really don't.
Treat his girl like a princess. And yes, I've seen this. But at what point do women start to ask men what they want, what they need, or what they desire?
Never.
Men are expected to service women, but are women held to the same standards? Why is this such a double standard? And even making this video, along with other men's issues-focused topics, many men don't trust that I actually give a fuck about their problems.
I absolutely do not. I mean, that's fairly accurate, right? She addressed the point I said at the beginning of the video. I, along with a lot of men watching this video, are probably very skeptical as to whether or not you give a damn. I'm personally leaning on no, because pretty much all women I've seen, they don't actually care, guys. They really don't. Women don't care about the dude who's struggling or trying to make things work. They don't care about his day-to-day problems. And just by the way, I'm not making an argument that women should give a damn, right? I'm just pointing out that they don't. I think most dudes, for example, you know, we're about our business kind of thing, right? You've got a friend who has a really rough day. You'll talk to him for a bit, but you'll be like, hey, man, you know, it's time to get back in the game. You're a dude. You can't afford to be wallowing in sorrow the whole day. We have things to do. And that's really what I think that's what makes men feel a lot better, right? Is having a task, getting up no matter how hard things are. I'm not saying that women should give a damn. I don't particularly care whether they do or not. But a lot of guys are going to be very skeptical that you do care.
Issues-focused topics. Many men don't trust that I actually give a fuck about their problems. And I get it. Women seem to never ask or genuinely care about what men want, and seem to only focus on what they can get from them. And this brings me to my next point. Act, dress, and talk like a lady. There's an inherent expectation for men and women to present themselves with dignity in class. And I'd be amiss if I didn't acknowledge that this does vary from culture to culture. But when women don't have respect for themselves, take care of themselves, care about how they present themselves, or become adversarial in public, well, men aren't interested. A lot of people say that men are fearful or intimidated by women, but according to the feedback that I've received from men here, it's not that they're intimidated by women at all, but more so that they know a problem when they see one. When women are lower in agreeableness and present with much more masculine temperament, they see this as a volcano waiting to erupt. And instead of interacting with somebody that they know can cause problems, they avoid it altogether. Does that sound familiar in the context of our current society? Men are biologically wired to seek women who present with class and restraint. It's a subconscious preference that's tied to a man's desire to seek a partner who embodies respect. And this brings me to my next point. And I'm just going to use a direct quote here. We are not your gal friends. I have a 20-minute limit for being an emotional tampon. After that, speak to your friends or let us solve the problem.
I mean, I think dudes have the average man has less of a tolerance than 20 minutes as well, right? If someone brings up a problem to you, the first thing that you want to do is solve it. I don't really have time for people, guys, that don't want to solve problems. I don't really like being around them, to be honest. If you're someone who has a bunch of problems and you just sit there and you refuse to solve them, I mean, what are we doing here? Like, I don't enjoy being around people who are not actually actively trying to solve their problems. But I think 20 minutes, particularly for dudes who are older, they're going to be like, man, I have to listen to you for 20 minutes? I'm just not going to do that. And by the way, to a previous point that was just made here, I think a lot of women get self-respect backwards. They think that self-respect and empowerment is going out here and doing, you know, being a degenerate, essentially, going out there doing whatever it is that you want. But self-respect, a lot of women don't seem to understand. It actually has to do a lot with restraint. But they will never get that. They will absolutely never understand that.
End quote. And I feel the point was made pretty clear by this comment. But another perspective I would like to add is the amount of care and understanding that women give men towards their emotions, and the fact that it's alarmingly absent. Women tend to have larger friend groups that they will lean on for support, whereas men, if they want other men, well, they tend to have to seek that out. They also take on the responsibility of a woman's emotions, which means even if they have feelings, one of you, for the sake of both of you, has to remain centered. And while men are wired for solutions, that doesn't mean that they're emotional stones. What it does mean is that they're not necessarily allotted the same time, space, or respect to express or even validate or acknowledge their emotions. And oftentimes, if they have the courage to try, they are emasculated or these things are thrown in their face.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is a story that's quite old at this point, okay? As you have all of these women saying, oh, I want a man who's vulnerable. I want a man who's going to be emotionally open with me. I'm so sick of tell me if you've heard this one before, guys, the emotionally unavailable men. And so what happens is men listen to this crap, they go out there and they think to themselves, oh, I can be emotional, everything's going to be fine. And then they do realize that it just gets thrown back in their face. They get treated like trash. And, you know, this is why dudes don't open up to women these days, is because it gets weaponized against them. Number one, nobody cares. But number two, the people who proclaim to give a damn just weaponize it and use it against you anyway. Okay, so like, where is the incentive for men to be emotionally vulnerable or open up to you anyway? And of course, men have feelings. Like, everybody knows this. When I say everybody, perhaps I'm quite a bit wrong there. But of course, men have feelings. But not everyone, you know, women in particular don't really give a damn. They oftentimes think that we don't. This makes a lot of sense. But to be honest, I think a lot of the things in this video are going to make a lot of sense because they're written by men and they're talking about the issues that men face. So of course they have a good grasp of the things that we're, you know, that I would agree with personally.
Which brings me to my next point. Do not gossip. If you do, you do it about everybody, including him, and he knows that. This all comes down to responsibility. Your partner is an extension of you, meaning that when you think you're getting off because you're talking down about him, you're also, as a consequence, talking about the person that you are. You chose this partner, and if the roles were reversed, I don't think this type of behavior would fly or go away quietly. Gossip doesn't help anyone. Ever. The problems that you have need to be discussed with the person that you have them with, not in public places or around people who only get to hear one side of the story. And this brings me to my next point, and I'm going to just leave the quote here. When you're fat, you're not a 10. You are a 2, only on a good day, if you are lucky. And again, I think I'm just gonna leave that comment there. And
I love how she doesn't want to comment on it, by the way. But it's absolutely true. I mean, how many times do we see women who are objectively very unattractive going around here talking about the fact that they are 10s, apparently? So you have so many girls who go around, guys, and their entitlement is just absolutely through the roof. They think they're so attractive. They think that they're so amazing. Never mind the fact, by the way, that a lot of them can't even get a relationship with a man to save their life. But of course, they're 10s. Even if you're overweight, even if you're unattractive. Now, mind you guys, if a man comes out here and he says the same thing, he is going to be reality checked immediately. Women don't get reality checked nearly as much, if at all, throughout their entire lives. If you're a dude and you're overweight, and for example, you try saying to people that you're a 10, your friends are going to be like, brother, shut the hell up. You're fat as hell. You're not a 10. Like, your friends are probably going to roast you. And that doesn't make them bad friends. That actually makes them good friends because they're telling you the truth. I don't think a lot of women are told the truth, so they end up just being incredibly entitled. There was a point earlier in this video about how women have these bigger friend circles. I think a lot of the quote-unquote friends that women have are not really friends at all. I think they just lie to them, to be honest. Like, these are the same women, by the way, who are gassing these women up, telling them that they're 10s. Like, they're absolutely not 10s. So let's keep going.
And as this continues, this may feel more hurtful, but nevertheless, this is my platform to give them a voice, not about my opinions. So, on to the next one. Women who have had more than one sex partner for every 5 years of age are a red flag. Women have always set the standard for sexual experiences, meaning that men will do what they need to do in order to get it. And what they need to do is reflective of the standards that women set for men. And no, this doesn't mean that men don't have standards, but oftentimes it is the female who controls the pace at which this happens. Not universally true, but directionally correct. And as Andrew Tate would say, a woman's job is to protect her innocence, and I do believe a lot of men would likely agree with that statement. And this brings me to my next point. Learn at least a little bit about the things that he likes. And this is so that at a bare minimum, you can engage in conversation around those things.
Yeah, I see, you know, again, this is a great point because it's a dude who makes it, so he understands what men might be interested in. Most women don't really try and they won't make conversation about the things that you're interested in. Hell, even the women who are trying to lock down some dude, they still don't even consider this a lot of the time. They can't even, like, all they're thinking about is themselves. Oh, if I could get this guy, then I'm going to be perceived a lot better than Stella down the road. My boyfriend's going to be better than Stella's. You know, James over here, he has an awesome car. So if I can get a relationship with James, this is going to make me look good. You know, like, they don't care oftentimes about having these conversations with men. Because again, men are just being used anyway. Why would you need to consider a man's feelings or a man's interest if you're not even interested in him as a person to begin with? You know, I see lots of complaints from women that men are not interested in them as people. But I think, to be honest with you, a lot of the times it's completely backwards. I think a lot of women don't give a damn, and they don't have to act genuinely care about the hobby that you might have, but they should make at least a little bit of an effort. But they don't. You might be someone who's into, I don't know, Warhammer painting, for example. I've seen that as a hobby that a lot of guys are interested in. You don't have to, as a woman, know how to do Warhammer painting. You don't have, that's probably not one of your genuine interests. But of course, men appreciate if you ask about it and you ask questions and you try and learn a bit, but they don't really give a damn. Again, a lot of these points are like, they're fantastic points, but the women are still not going to care.
And in their words, not sound like a complete moron, or engage in those activities without looking like a complete idiot, end quote. The point of this all is that men actually tend to bond through teaching or experiencing or going through activities, creating things, building things, solving problems, etc. It's simply the act of doing or engaging in something. So it's important for longevity and the depth of the connection that you can have to actually have some type of interest in what he's interested in, as I can almost guarantee that he probably doesn't love sitting down and watching your reality TV shows, but he'll do it with you because he cares. And next on the list, and I think this one's actually pretty important, men do not see or understand hints. And they don't misunderstand you on purpose. They often don't understand your behavior, period, especially when it fluctuates and jumps from emotion to emotion. If you want something, ask for it. It's not the case, oftentimes, that they actually want to piss you off or frustrate you. It's that they actually don't know what you want them to do. And when it comes to men and women in relationships or dating, they'd like you to understand that you getting a guy is much easier than them getting a woman. And to back this point, I will say social media and dating apps absolutely support this with the data that we have. Men will get one match per 40 swipes on average, where women will get one match for every 2 swipes on average.
And just by the way, I want to go back to this statistic, right? 1 in 40. So every time a dude swipes 40 times, let me just go back to here and see if I can pull up this again. For every 40 times a man swipes on a dating application, he gets 1 out of 40. Who do you think that these women are, by the way, that are reciprocating the matches? Usually it's going to be a woman who's incredibly unattractive. So men have a 2.5% chance of finding a match. Oftentimes the people that men do match with are incredibly unattractive, or they're awful people. And then we look at women, right? Women have a chance of 50% of finding a match. And I guarantee you, by the way, this is on like dudes who are quite highly attractive to the women. So, and these are by the way, like, consider the power difference between these two different scenarios. And yet women have the audacity to complain about dating. Like, let that sink in for a second, guys. Women have such a huge advantage in dating, and they completely squander it. And the reason why they squander it is because they're always chasing the very, very top percentage of men who, of course, have zero reason to commit to them in the first place. This statistic, right? I don't know how particularly accurate it is, but I wouldn't even say that it's close to out of the realm of probability. Really goes to show how screwed up things are. And of course, like, you look at stuff like this, and it makes it impossible to empathize with women who say that they are struggling to date dudes. Let's keep going.
Focus on your sexuality, you will be judged for your sexuality. There are 3 really important points when it comes to any relationship that actually has depth. And I'm going to break them down here just for simplicity's sake. 1 is the pool of chemistry, which you can have with thousands of people, but that doesn't really make a relationship last. It's what pulls you together, but it isn't really what keeps you there. Connection is a little bit deeper. Things that you enjoy doing, things that you're interested in. It's what creates the next layer of depth in a relationship. But number 3, and the most important piece, is compatibility.
Yeah, here's my thoughts on it. I will tell you, you know what impacts a woman's ability to stay in a relationship? And the reason why I word it that way is because women are the ones who are leaving relationships. They are the ones who are dismantling marriages and throwing away men the most often. You know what a good thing to search for is? Women who haven't been with a whole bunch of different dudes. Like, the funny thing is, you could throw away these 3 points here. Connection, the compatibility. Your chances of having a longer-term relationship are going to skyrocket if you are with a woman who hasn't been with a whole bunch of other dudes. That's, that would be step number 1 right there. Because, guys, if you look at there's actually statistics that have been released on this, by the way. the more partners that individuals have, the higher the likelihood of a marriage completely not working out, for example. And it absolutely skyrockets from, like, if you go from 0 to say 3 or 4 partners, the odds of the relationship failing just go up an insane amount. But guys, I think we're going to be leaving today's episode there regardless. As always, remember to leave your thoughts and your comments. What do you think about some of these truths? Do you guys think that women even give a damn to begin with? Me personally, I'm a little bit skeptical. But let me know what you think in the comments. Guys, make sure you take care of yourselves, and I'll be seeing you all in the next one. Peace.